Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tasseo-Talk, the show where spiritual professionals spill the tea on their practices, goals, and challenges within their industries. I am here with Stephanie, aka the Dragon Enchantress from YouTube. We're going to talk a little bit about her journey and how she became a YouTube tarot reader professionally. Hello, Stephanie. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your abilities and how you learned to read tarot?
So there are four main clairs. There is claircognizance, which is clear knowing. There's clairvoyance, which is clear vision. There's clairaudience, which is clear hearing. And there's clairsentience, which is clear feeling. So I'm primarily claircognizant and clairsentient. So sometimes I just know things. I don't know how I know, but it's almost like having a conversation with a friend. It's like you remember the gist of what was said. And I feel like I astral travel quite a bit, but I'm not conscious of it. And I feel like I have very psychic dreams. Sometimes I telepathically communicate with people through dreams, or I get messages, I get downloads through my dreams. And then I go on my YouTube channel, and sometimes there's messages for specific people on my YouTube channel that my spirit guides bring me through my dreams. So being clairsentient, it's like I can pick up on people's emotions. I can, if I'm in a room with someone that's really sad, that's really depressed, I'll pick up on that energy. When I first started channeling, I actually didn't use tarot cards. I would just ask my clients for a picture. I actually started out reading mostly in Facebook groups. And I would do collective readings for people, and I'd ask people to send me a picture of them, and I would just tune into that picture. And I'd almost go into a trance-like state, and I'd get the information from their spirit guides, from my spirit guides. That's where the claircognizance would come in. It's like I wouldn't really know how I knew those things, but I'd be able to look at a picture of someone and just know, you might have lost someone close to you within the last month, or, you're about to get a large sum of money within the next week. Or I might be able to pick up on, someone's partner, what's going on in their relationship. It's like I can just look at someone's picture and just kind of pick up details about their life and about who they are as a person. And I primarily look at someone's eyes. So I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but if you look at pictures of serial killers, their eyes are always dark. So a serial killer can have light, blue eyes, green eyes, light blue eyes, whatever, but their eyes are always dark. If you really zone in and focus on their eyes always, there's like this darkness in them. There's this energy that you can just feel because the eyes really are the window to the soul. And people that are depressed, people that are going through something, they might have dark eyes as well. But as a psychic, I'm able to tell the difference when I look in someone's eyes between someone who's got dark eyes because they're depressed and someone who has dark eyes because there's actually something off there, sociopathic or psychopathic. When I first started going through that whole psychic awakening process, I was actually very ungrounded. I was channeling all the time. I really didn't even know how to turn it off. Like I was just constantly picking up on the energies around me. I was constantly doing readings. I was constantly doing witchcraft as well. I was just very connected to the spiritual realm. I became very ungrounded, very disconnected from the physical realm for at least a few months as that process was going on. And there was even one time that I channeled someone's father that had crossed over, and it was in a Facebook group that I was reading for, and I went in and I found the woman, and it was absolutely insane because it's like I could channel him, I could see an image of him, I saw his truck, I saw what his house looked like, I knew what he wanted to tell her, and I actually went and found her in the Facebook group, and I described her to him, I described his appearance, I described the kind of truck he had, I described their relationship, what he wanted to let her know. I found her, but she didn't even know that he had crossed over. But he wanted that closure. He wanted that help, moving on to the other side. And I had so many experiences like that because my spirit guides wanted to confirm that all of this was real. Because I am a very emotional, idealistic person, but I am logical at the same time. And I think that they just wanted to make sure that I had proof in the physical world that I had confirmation from my clients, from people that I was channeling for, that what I was picking up on was real. I had so many I don't even know how to describe the experiences I had when I went through that psychic awakening. Like, they just really made sure to confirm in the physical world that what I was channeling was accurate, that spirit guides, telepathy, dreams, that all of those things are very, very real. And I was actually pretty ungrounded for a while, because I think I was so excited about it. I think I was just so excited to realize that, to like have that recognition, to start remembering my past lives, to channel for people. I got very heavily invested in psychic work, in witchcraft, in my spirituality. And eventually I had to ground myself and come back down to the physical world a bit and find more of a balance. And I feel like that's when I started learning how to read tarot cards. I would say that mine's still open, but I don't think it's nearly as open as it was during that whole psychic awakening process that I went through. That would have been about, like, I would say, maybe like 5-6 years ago. So, like I said, eventually I had to learn to find that balance. I had to ground myself and come back to earth a little bit, ground all those energies, So I still ask my clients for a picture, and I still primarily channel. So if I do like a private reading for someone, I'll look at a picture and I'll zone in, and I might get information about their relationship, about, who they are as a person, just, whatever they're wanting to know, I can tap into it. But back when I went through that spiritual awakening, it's like I didn't really need the cards or a pendulum or any other tools. I could just look at a picture and I would just, I would just know. I would just know whatever it was that was going on with them. I would just be able to channel, and it just flowed very clearly. But now, finding more of that balance, I feel like I need the tarot cards to help confirm the messages that I'm channeling. So, if someone gets a reading from me, for example, it's like I'll ask them to send me a picture. I'll ask them to send me the questions, and then I'll kind of tune in a little bit. And sometimes I'll just get the information without the cards, but the cards are a really helpful tool to confirm what I'm picking up and to see how the story plays out. So I might, for example, look at a picture of someone and pick up that they're having issues with a family member. But when I pull tarot, I can get more details on that. I can see why they're having issues with the family member. Because with channeling, it's like you feel an energy. I might feel an emotion, or I might, again, being claircognizant, it's like I might just have the information come to me naturally through my spirit guides or through their spirit guides. But the tarot really helps zone in on what I'm already channeling. So I might get the gist of what's going on through channeling, but it's like the tarot cards help me see the entire picture and understand what's going on. And sometimes when I do tarot readings on something, it's like I get information that I didn't expect. So, in that case, for example, like, looking at someone's picture and channeling and picking up that they might be having issues with a sibling. When I pull tarot cards, I might, get a past life story and realize that there's past life karma between the two of them that's now playing out in this life that's affecting their relationship. And I actually just taught myself how to read tarot cards. It took a while, and it does take quite a while to really start memorizing the definitions. But considering I primarily channel, sometimes the cards might mean different things, and you have to look at the context. It really depends on the cards that are laid out before or after, like the main cards. Like, let's say I get the Devil card, for example. If I get the Three of Swords and the Ten of Swords, then I might take that as past baggage, patterns that are negatively affecting someone and basically, causing their downfall. Basically like self-sabotage kind of energy. Or I could get the Seven of Swords with the Devil card and, pick up on cheating or deception or lies being told. It's like you have to look at how all the cards play out together. You have to look at the bigger picture, at the entire story. But for example, if I got the Devil card with the Queen of Wands or the King of Wands, then I might see that as passion. So passion, like lust, obsession, something of that sort. So, not only am I looking at how all the cards play out together, but I'm also channeling the energies of the cards, because there have been times when, I might get the Queen of Pentacles, for example, and I'm like, okay, this is a woman that's mature, stable, grounded, loyal. In another reading, I might, I might start channeling that the Queen of Pentacles is representing someone who's an earth sign, a feminine energy that's an earth sign. In another reading, I might get that the Queen of Pentacles is a karmic third-party relationship, a third-party woman. I might just feel a bad energy off her. So it's like when I look at the cards, I'm still channeling. I'm still feeling a certain vibe with that clairsentience and that claircognizance. It's like I'm looking at the entire story and I'm feeling the energy off each specific card in that context. With, reading tarot cards as well, I really taught myself how to ground myself when I read the cards and how to come in an intuitive space. So I don't read the cards when I'm upset. I don't read the cards when I'm in an overly positive or an overly negative mental state, because I know that energy is going to be projected onto the cards, and the cards are going to show me what I'm feeling. So I make sure that I'm able to channel clearly and accurately, that I'm in a really, neutral, grounded, very open, very, spiritually open state to receive the messages correctly.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm the same way. I don't like to read for myself when I'm emotional. I always get someone else to do it. Either you or Brittany or Heather or just whoever has the time and energy. But I'm going to go back to where you were talking about the meanings of the cards a moment ago, because that got me to thinking about, like, a lot of the times it depends on the deck, too, because the authors of the decks, they'll have, like, certain ways that they interpret it. Like, myself, when I make the cards, I have the devil specifically, meaning a few different things. On my learner deck, the Fool's Journey, I use the angelic imagery of Lucifer to kind of remind the seeker that there is, not just pure evil in the devil card, and that even like the most righteous can fall. In my Anima Tarot, I used a quote that focuses on the desire, like you were talking about. And a lot of the time, like, you'll look at the imagery and all of that when you're taking the meaning of the card into account. And I just think that it's really cool how, like, certain decks will want to talk about certain things. And a lot of the times it's the personality of the deck itself, but it's interesting to think about, like, how much care the author put into it as well.
That makes sense. I have a specific deck, for example, that whenever I use that deck, I know it's going to be a message for just a very small energy group. It's a very small collective because the messages are just so specific. And I have other decks as well where it's like I don't even really focus on the actual tarot definitions. I'll just focus on the imagery. I'll focus on, if there's like a butterfly on the deck, or I'll focus on where the characters are looking. So sometimes I'll pull out the cards and I'll notice that, like, maybe the King of Wands is looking towards the Queen of Pentacles, or he's looking away from her, and I might take that as a man, like, either going towards someone or away from someone. It's like I'll look at their energy, their personalities, like what I feel off of them through each card. It's like I feel like tarot and oracle cards, it's really an art form. And I feel that way when I create cards as well. When I create my tarot and oracle card decks. So when I create my oracle and tarot decks, I try to make sure that the symbolism is really strong with my decks. I want to make sure that, I might put birds or butterflies, or I might put, specific animals or specific numbers, just things that are going to resonate with certain people. And I feel like, tarot and oracle cards, it's really an art form. And I try to really focus in on just the energy I get off the characters, the direction that they're facing, little symbols that most people might not notice in the tarot cards. It's like it really all comes into play so that you can see the entire picture.
That makes a lot of sense. Like me with my cat tarot today when we were doing a reading, and I was like looking at the Ten of Wands and how that cat looked so judgy. I usually don't look at that stuff. But I know that when I'm drawn to look at the imagery and like notice certain details, that it's very important because that's usually not my style of reading. But when it comes to like, you know, that feeling like, hey, this is important, pay attention. Like, I know that's something that I need to pay attention to.
Exactly, because you're a psychic. You know, you're channeling. When you look at that card, you're feeling the character's energy. You're looking at the symbols on it. You're getting a specific energy off of it. Which, you know, you can be a tarot reader and not really be a psychic. I mean, I think everybody has psychic abilities, and everyone can develop those psychic abilities further. But, you know, a lot of people just read. That's why I don't use books either. Like when I do tarot or when I get like a new oracle deck, I never really go by the books. I just go by the images. I go by the feeling I get off the cards. I look at the entire story and it just kind of flows naturally.
I get that too. I am the exact polar opposite. I look at the book, if I'm drawn to look at the book, because I know that the author puts certain insights in there, and with certain decks, yeah, I'll just ignore the book altogether. With others, I'll read the book word for word through the whole reading, and then with others, I'll only look at the book when I feel like there's something important in there for me that I wouldn't have considered otherwise. So me, I love a good tarot guide.
That makes sense. It can be useful. And I think it's up to everyone to really decide what works for them, because for some people the book works, for some people, you know, it kind of depends on the book. Some people don't. Some people focus more on the actual definitions of the tarot cards. Some people focus more on the imagery. You know, tarot, just like witchcraft, tarot is an art form. Oracle cards, it's an art form. So you really have to choose tarot and oracle decks that resonate with you, that match your aesthetic, that are going to speak to you. That way you can really channel the messages instead of just going by, you know, solely by the definitions. Like, you're able to see the entire picture when you lay out the cards and you understand what the story is.
Yes. I'm going to use one of our readings as an example again. Obviously, I'm not going to go into details, but you know how I usually go by just the suits when I'm doing yes or no questions?
Yeah.
So recently, I have been so drawn to go by the definition of the card instead. So I've been doing that as well, and it's helped with getting like a lot of little extra details. So like, it's a yes or no, but here's why. Or here's why this is not the traditional answer with this card that comes through. And it's been really helpful to explore that.
It makes sense, definitely. And I think that's where a lot of people that are new to tarot get stuck, is they feel like they have to read a specific way, and then they end up limiting themselves. So it's really good, you know, like you were saying, it's like sometimes you go by the suit, by the definition. Other times you might go by the visuals, or you have certain oracle decks that speak to you about certain topics more than other ones do. You know, like I know with you, but it's like there's not really a right or wrong way to read the cards. It's just whatever they mean to you. Like, I have certain cards that might, like, the characters on the cards look like certain people I know. So when I pull that card, I know it might be representing that person. I know other readers, like I know a reader that I watch on YouTube, the Queen of Wands, for whatever reason, always means a third party to her. To me, a lot of times when I get the Queen of Wands, since I'm a fire sign, I'm an Aries, the Queen of Wands usually represents me in readings most of the time, but not all of the time.
I get that, and I've kind of adopted that when I'm reading for you specifically, is if the Queen of Wands comes out, especially with the cat tarot, I know that it's referring to you, because I've trained my decks or just reading for you for so long, since you've been my best client for so long, has really just trained my way of recognition when I'm doing that. But it always lines up that way, that it's accurate, but it's just really funny to me that just like that one card always means you.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, it's like, I mean, when I first started doing tarot, it's like I didn't really, it took me a while to get used to the cards, but it's like once I did, it's almost like you just have your own kind of relationship with them. It's like, it's almost like having your own language with your spirit guides or
Yes.
with your client spirit guides. It's like you just kind of know what it means. It's like direct communication from them. It's hard to explain, but it's like you just look at the cards and you just kind of know what they're trying to say. You can just channel it.
Right. While we're on the subject of like how we read and everything, what was it that made you decide to become a what was it that made you decide to become a professional psychic and tarot reader?
I actually went to college. I'm from Santa Cruz, and I went to college in Santa Cruz for a couple of years for criminal justice and psychology. And I mean, it was a good experience. I'm glad I went. And I don't know, it's like it never fully resonated with me to have a regular 9 to 5, 5 day a week job. Like there was just always something in me that just wanted to be more of an entrepreneur. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to do something that would help people. It's like it just never really fully resonated with me. Like I felt like my calling was somewhere else. And I wouldn't say that I really so much decided to become a professional tarot reader or psychic as I just kind of was like thrust into this whole spiritual psychic awakening. When I went through that process that I was talking about, like about 5-6 years ago, it's like I would just start going into these trances. I started having these very psychic dreams. I started helping spirits cross over even. I started remembering my past lives. And again, it's like I had confirmation that all of this was real. Like my spirit guides made sure, because at first I was kind of like, okay, this seems crazy. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, I wasn't sure about it, but I mean, it was exciting. It was really interesting, but it's like my spirit guides made sure that, that logic and idealism, that energy was balanced. They made sure to ground those energies so that I understood that what I was channeling, what I was feeling, what I was being shown, basically it was like the veil was lifted, and my spirit guides just wanted me to know for sure that, all of that stuff was very, very real. And just to go back to what we were saying before, so I wouldn't say I was never opposed to witchcraft. I was never opposed to psychic work before. Like I was always drawn to that my entire life, ever since I was little. I was always drawn to, spirituality. I was drawn to like ancient Egypt. Like when I was younger, I never really cared about studying American history. I always wanted to study Egypt, or I wanted to study, Celtic mythology or Celtic history. It's like I was always drawn to things that were connected to my past lives, I feel.
That makes sense. Have you noticed that like just about every girl has had an Egyptian phase? Like, have you seen that on the internet where everyone's just like, remember this gold book from the Scholastic Book Fair about the ancient Egyptians? And like everyone was obsessed with it.
I went through that as a kid for sure. I was like, American history is really fucking boring. I'm not a fan.
That's completely fair. Personally, I'm a fan of history in general. I love history because, like, I've never been a big fan of math because there's, like, too many rules, and it's just really hard. But I've always been a fan of history because all you have to do is, like, just learn some facts. So I just really enjoyed that, and, like, I just like learning things. So, like, it doesn't matter if it's Egyptian history, American history, mythology, whatever. I just like to learn things.
That makes sense. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I was always drawn to that. I was always drawn to other cultures. I was always drawn to witchcraft. I was always drawn to like psychic work. I think I always had some psychic abilities. Just to clarify what we were talking about before, it's like I was never opposed to those things. It's just that, I don't know, like, I feel like when I went through my spiritual awakening, it's like I was dabbling with tarot a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really know how to read tarot, but it's like I probably had a tarot deck that I would read here and there, and I was curious about it. or, same with witchcraft, where it's like I would do these little, cutesy love and light spells here and there every once in a while. But when I went through my psychic awakening, it's like everything just kind of shifted. It's like my witchcraft became so much more like raw and primal, where I would just go into these trances, and it's like I would just do my spell work on the spot. I wouldn't even plan it out. I would just stand in front of my selection of herbs and oils, and I would just, go with what felt right to me. Like I said, witchcraft it's like an art form. It's very creative. It's very raw when you just let it flow naturally, when you add your emotion into it, when you add that passion into it, and you really see it almost like painting a picture, and you just really kind of dive in and let it flow. Mm-hmm. Like just really diving right in. I feel like that is what makes witchcraft like the most powerful. That's what makes it more personal. Witchcraft is about emotion. It's about passion. And again, same with psychic work, with tarot. It's like, yeah, I dabbled before. I had, tarot decks that I would use here and there, but I didn't really fully know what I was doing. But it's like, when I went through that spiritual awakening, it's like I didn't intentionally seek it out. I didn't necessarily plan for that to happen, but, I just started channeling, and I kind of developed this new relationship with my tarot cards. So now it's like my spirit guides can really give me direct messages. It's like I can just pull cards and I just know what they're trying to say. Like I understand. It's like a tool I can use to connect with them specifically.
Yes. Speaking of that, like I have like certain decks that certain guides like to use, and like certain card patterns, like how many cards come out at a time. That'll sometimes tell me who I'm talking to, like specifically Loki. He likes to give me 2 cards at a time, and he likes to make me dig for it.
Or like Hades with the coins. It's like, because I know we have a lot of this, we work with a lot of the same Greek deities as well. So it's like they kind of, it's almost like they have their own personalities, like they have their own aesthetic and their own ways that they want to communicate with us.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, we were made in their image, so I assume that means that, they're a lot more like us than we really like to believe. Like, we want to believe that they're, like, bigger than us, and they are, but I do feel like, they're, when you break it down to brass tacks, they are, in their own way, human. Like, they make mistakes, they have their personalities and their ways of doing things, and a lot of them are pretty stubborn about things. Even if they're wrong, they don't want to admit it.
Yeah, and they have their own relationship with people, too. Like, I mean, Frigg is one of my main deities, because I work primarily with Norse and Greek deities. I mean, there's, some Egyptian and Celtic as well, but mostly Norse and Greek deities. And I have, a Frigg statue on my, this huge altar that I use for my YouTube channel, for my YouTube readings. And I've just noticed, like, people have different relationships with her. Like I've known people that just think she's like cold and harsh and just absolutely, mean, because she has that warrior spirit. She's a very strong, feminine symbol, feminine energy. But with her, it's like I feel a motherly energy from her. It's like I can't, of course I can't see her, I can't hear her or anything like that, but it's like I can feel that energy. Like I can feel when I'm pulling cards, if she's coming through, I can just kind of get this intuitive sense that it's her, even though there's no way to confirm that for sure, but I can kind of, it's almost like an energy signature where I can tell that she's the one that's trying to come through and give me some kind of message.
Yes. So I actually learned the term for that a few months ago, and it has helped me a lot. So it's called unverified personal gnosis, where you'll get like downloads or information or direct communication with a deity or spirit or whatever it is that you're communicating with, that's not necessarily in their lore. So like that is not something that can be looked up. So that's what people have when they have their own personal experiences versus when they're like researching and vetting their deities with like the verified personal gnosis of what's actually in their mythology. It's pretty cool.
That is interesting. That does make a lot of sense. And I've almost kind of failed in that way a little bit, because I do need to study their mythology more, their history more, because I feel like when I went through that spiritual awakening, I just kind of became aware of my spirit guides. It's like, even though there was no like actual confirmation, there was no way to know for sure. It's like I could just kind of sense the energies that were coming through. But it's like I developed my own relationships with them. Like, Thor, for example, I have my Thor's hammer that I wear every day for protection. I never take it off. Mm-hmm. It's all I charge it with that energy to protect me. And it's like I probably need to know more about their history. Like, I don't know as much as I should. You know what I mean? Because it's like I develop my own relationships with them. Mm-hmm. And same probably with you and Loki. For example, in mythology, I mean, Loki is not. He's not a great deity, but it's like with you, he's very, from what I've seen, it's like he's very loving with you. He's very, he has like a very gentle kind of fun, loving energy when it comes to you. So it's like they have their own energy signatures, their own personalities. So sometimes I feel like with mythology, it's like you can't always go off of, how they're made out to be.
So with Loki, a lot of the misconceptions with him is that most people get all of their information from the Eddas, so just the stories about him. But if you dig into like the deeper lore, he's pretty well known for everything he does, all his pranks, all his mischief. He has a reason. So he's a very difficult deity to work with for that reason, because he does like to pull pranks. He does like to trick people and test people. And the reason that he does so is that he wants you to dig deeper and learn for yourself, rather than just feeding you the answers. So like, for example, if you're in a situation where, you are, let's just use like a love situation as an example. If you're like having somebody that you can't really get a read on, a lot of the time the lesson that he wants you to learn is that you get to make the decision of whether or not you're compatible with that person. It's not a matter of what they're doing, it's a matter of what you want to do. And the lesson usually ends up being whatever you decide. He wants you to be decisive about your own path and like make your own way. He has a tendency to he has a tendency to find followers who need not so much guidance but liberation. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, that does make sense for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think destiny, because it's like you can have soulmates that someone can be meant for you, someone can be a soulmate of yours, but they can choose to stay on a karmic path. So that does make sense with like Loki coming through and kind of pushing people, like, is this regardless of if it's a past life connection or whatever it is, like, is this right for you? Is this going to work for you? Like, what do you want?
Exactly.
And that does make sense, because I have felt that kind of energy around me lately, because I've been pushed to be more honest on my YouTube channel. So, because it's like I don't really want to do like traditional readings like most people do. It's like I want to kind of urge, 'cause, for example, like I feel like a lot of tarot readers are just, positive vibes only, just try to just be happy and just sweep things under the rug, just try to think positive all the time. And I want to really encourage people that watch my channel to be honest, to be authentic, to, really, choose their own path, to really find what's right for them, because it's like it's not like a one size fits all. There is not like one specific path to ascension. It's everyone has their own path, and it depends on your past lives. It depends on, your current life experiences, just who you are as a person. So I think it does make sense for like Loki to come through when he's trying to encourage people to just find their own path, to commit to, honest, to commit to just figuring out what they want to do,
Yes. And that actually kind of reminds me of like, a lot of people will tell me that like some of my collective or even my zodiac readings are a little bit vague. And that's fine. If it's too vague for them, that's not on me. Because the way that I read, I like to leave it with enough interpretation where the person can apply it to their life if it applies to them. If it doesn't apply to them, it doesn't apply to them. That's, neither here nor there. But, like, when things will come through, I'll get, like, oh, there is a situation for this person where this is happening. But it's not, like, specific details. It's more like the, mostly the feelings around it is what I channel. So, like, not everything is for everybody.
That makes sense. And you're a good psychic too, because it's like you want to encourage people to use their own intuition. I mean, like when I do my readings, it's like I do try to get specific. I do try to get specific details so that people know if it's for them. But at the same time, it's like I do want to encourage people, because I feel like a lot of people, get reliant on psychics, or they get reliant on witches, and they start forgetting their own power. They don't end up developing their own spiritual abilities because they rely on, like, YouTube tarot readers and that kind of thing. So it's good to be, a little, like you're saying, it's like when you're vague, it's like people can decide how it fits. It's like an intuitive exercise for them.
Yes. And like, wow, I just drew a blank. So like, well, whatever it was, it must not have been important.
Fair enough.
I keep getting moments like that where it'll just like feel important for just a moment, and like I'll feel like I have something to say, and then it'll just totally blank, mind erased, gone.
No, I feel that too. I'm more of like an intuitive thinker. So like when I went to college, I was really good at like psychology and communication. Like I was not good at like astronomy, archaeology. Like if you have to learn facts, like I'm not good at things like that where it's like you have to memorize things or you're just like on the spot. I'm more of like a creative, intuitive type, and I think you're kind of like that as well a little bit. So it makes sense.
It just depends on what's going on.
Yeah.
I love memorizing things. Tarot is like my go-to when it comes to like the tools for my divination, because I love the structure. I'm like 99.99999% sure that I'm autistic. So like structure, that's my bread and butter. I am also a Virgo. I was talking about this with with Abriana from Tarot Astrology on the last episode. Am I autistic or am I just a Virgo? And I question that every day.
We're like the stereotypical Virgo.
Yeah.
Very structured.
But I did remember what I was going to say. Earlier you were talking about the clairs, and like we were talking about our way of thinking, and this is what got me on this train of thought. My clairs are, I have claircognizance. That's the clear knowing. Where, like, sometimes I just know things. Not always, but sometimes I just know things. And then I'll use my tarot cards to figure out, what is this thing that I know? How do I know it? And then one of my other clairs is not one that you mentioned. It's actually called clairalience, and that is clear smelling. So, like, I'll get a whiff of something all of a sudden, like lavender or licorice or just something like that. And it's like, oh, well, now I need to look into this and why. And, like, most of the time, it'll just be one of my guides just wanting to let me know that they're around. But licorice specifically usually means that someone is remote viewing you.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, like, if I get a whiff of licorice specifically, I will be like, okay, well, I gotta dig into this and see who's spying on me. And then lavender is a little trickier because it can mean a few things, but for me specifically, it is usually a case where someone is actively, like, trying to be sneaky, because lavender is used for cloaking. So, like, those are the two main ones that will come up for me, but, like, sometimes it'll be something else, like the smell of rain or whatever, and that's a little trickier because it's not something that I immediately like associate with something. But yeah, I just remembered that and had to talk about my weird Claire.
No, that's interesting. I like that. Yeah, it's like your spirit guides coming through and saying, "Hey, like there's something here. Pay attention to us." And I think that's where. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Mine was not important.
A lot of like new witches and like new psychics like get caught up because they're like, "Oh, I have to do it a specific way," and it's like when you really dive into it, your spirit guides are going to connect with you in the way that works for you.
Yes.
Like, I know one psychic that like whenever she channels, she'll get visuals, and if it looks like if her, you know, what she sees in her mind's eye, if it's really dark, it means it's something that happened in the distant past. The brighter it is, the closer it is to, you know, either the present moment or the future. So it's like people have to kind of learn their own language with their spirit guides, and I feel like tarot really helps with that. It helps them develop their own, you know, it's just a way to communicate with your spirit guides and also with your client's spirit guides as well.
Absolutely. And while we're on the subject of like getting in touch with your spirit guides, like these are abilities that obviously everyone has. Just you have to learn how to hone it. But with your abilities, do you consider them a gift, or do you consider them like something you sometimes find annoying? Like for you personally, what do you feel like? What's your relationship with your abilities?
Me personally, I love it. I've never really been afraid to step out of my comfort zone. Like I like stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm very passionate. I'm adventurous. I like pushing other people out of their comfort zone. You've seen me do that before too, where I've channeled for you and I've given you reading. Like, what, bitch? Please stop! I don't want to know these things. And I'm like, no, you need to know. You need to know.
Yes.
So I mean, I consider my abilities a gift. Like, I love that. I love doing witchcraft. I love my spirituality. I love doing tarot readings. I love, you know, getting messages through dreams. Like, I know you and I both, a lot of times, it's like, if there's something going on, especially like in the astral realm or just telepathically, it's like we'll both have dreams around the same time, and it's like we message each other, and it's like we both end up getting the same kinds of messages through our dreams and end up like linking up that way. But yeah, I mean, I do consider it a gift. I am really grateful for this path. I'm grateful for the abilities. I'd say like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's hard to have a normal life, but I feel like it can be really lonely because I think sometimes my psychic gifts like can scare people a little bit because they know that I can read them, I can channel them, I can kind of see through people, I can read people very well. So I think it takes a very strong-minded person to be, you know, open-minded to spirituality and to someone that can pick up on those kind of energies. You know, some people are closed off to it. So, I mean, it can be a bit of a lonely path at times, but I'm still grateful for it.
I fully agree. I'm grateful for mine too, but I get what you mean about it being lonely because, like, when you want to talk about it, you gotta know who you can talk about it with. Because I can't always talk about it with just, like, anybody because, like, they'll think I'm weird. So I'll go... Do what?
Oh, what were you saying?
Oh, I was saying, like, I'll go find, like, some of my friends that I already know practice, and I'll talk to them and we'll like brainstorm. Like, if I channel something for somebody and they don't believe in that stuff and I'm just like, what do I do with this information? Those are the times that I'll just throw it on YouTube and hope they find it. But like, I'll just want to talk and relate to people. So like, I do have a set of friends finally that I can talk to, and I'm so glad that you're one of them. But yeah, I get that with it being lonely because like, you gotta vet people before you can start talking about it.
Yeah. And yeah, like, cause like witchcraft and psychic work is such a huge part of who I am. Like that spiritual path is such a huge part of who I am. So it is hard, like being friends with, you know, the muggles that don't understand it because they're like, oh, this like bitches are crazy, and like, no, it's not like that. I'm like, I can't see my spirit guides. I can't hear them. Like, it's not like that. Like, it's not like I'm having a conversation with them right in front of me. It's just an energy that I can channel that I'm aware of. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard. It's hard explaining it to people in like a way that they understand. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are kind of freaked out by it. I feel like another thing is just like the soul recognition, like the past life recognition. Like, I had a girl that, she's a witch too, and I made friends with her. She came into my work actually a few months ago, and we hung out recently, you know, but we talked for like 3 hours straight, and we both recognized that we were, you know, sisters in our past lives, and we both kind of, being in the same room together, we were both like channeling things and picking up on the energies, and we were both kind of like aware of the, you know, the past life energy of how we connected in our past lives. But it's hard when you have that kind of connection with someone who's maybe not as conscious of these sort of things, because it's like you want to be like, hey, like, you're part of my soul group, or you're one of my soulmates, or you know, like, we've had all these past lives together. It's like most people don't understand it, so I guess that's where it is tricky to be that aware of those things. You know, a lot of people are a little weirded out by it.
Right. This is very random, but I was just remembering, like, how you and I met through that Facebook group that one time. And
I actually don't remember all the details.
Do what?
I don't remember all the details.
Don't worry, I'm going to tell the story as I remember it. So I remember, like, seeing you in the group, and I don't remember what exactly the post was, but you were making a post, like, I think asking for advice in that particular one, but I just don't remember what the advice was that you were looking for because it's been years. But I remember specifically being drawn to you because your name was similar to my aunt. Your last name was off by 2 letters, and I was like, I'm going to talk to this person. We're going to be friends. And then after we got to talking, I started sending you memes all of a sudden. And you were like, why are you sending memes?
I couldn't remember because I was like, who is this person? Because like you kept sending me memes all the time. I was like, she seems nice, but like, who is she? And then to me, I was like, oh, she's like trying to talk to me. I like the effort. She's sweet. And I talked to you more, and I was like more open, you know?
Yeah. It was fun. Yeah, that was totally random, but I just wanted to share.
Both have some fire memes. They're like
Absolutely.
our little army. 20 memed up. 20 memes in a row that we just blast each other with.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna get us back on track. All right. What has been your biggest challenge with regards to your abilities, and how would you say you've overcome them?
Let's see. So I would say a little bit of what we just talked about, where it can just, I think, just the loneliness. I think it's just hard. It's like a lot of people don't understand witchcraft, or they don't understand psychic work, or they don't understand spiritual work. A lot of people do not. It's really sad, but it just feels like a lot of people these days do not want to step out of their comfort zone. Like, I've always been all about, like, stepping out of my comfort zone and pushing other people out of their comfort zone. And, like, you know, like, I want to see people be, like, the best version of themselves. But, I mean, a lot of people are just very afraid of the unknown, and they don't want to dive into that kind of stuff. A lot of people don't seem to want to explore that. So I think one of the biggest challenges is just how lonely it's been to have people that just, you know, they don't understand someone who's like on a more spiritual path. They don't understand the psychic stuff. They don't believe in witchcraft. They, you know, that kind of thing. They don't believe in manifestation. Like, a lot of people are just very closed off to it, or they just make, you know, false assumptions. Like, they assume, you know, witchcraft is the devil's work, or that kind of thing. So I think that's been, you know, a pretty big challenge is the loneliness. I would say the second thing is, well, I don't know if I would really call it a challenge, because I'm already a pretty honest, assertive person, but I want to challenge myself to be even more honest and more assertive than I already am. And there have been times when it's like made someone uncomfortable, but I feel like there's also been times when it's really helped people, and they've, you know, come to me and they've told me like, hey, like, you know, you called me out, or you told me something no one else was willing to tell me, something no one else like was willing to talk to me about. Like, you were very open, you were very real with me, and that really helped me. So it's like, I wouldn't say it's a challenge necessarily, because I do want to strive to be more honest, but there have been times when it's been a little bit awkward. For example, a while back, this has happened actually in a couple, because sometimes my spirit guides will bring me to people that need a specific message from me, and I'll channel their spirit guides and I'll get the message, and it's a little bit awkward giving them the message. Like, I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I was in an Uber, and we were talking, and we were having a pretty open conversation, and, you know, trigger warning, my spirit guides were like, you know, ask her about like the essay, ask her about the essay, like ask her about what she went through, like ask her about like mention that. I'm like, I can't, like, and I could just feel the energy. It's not like I could hear them, but it's like I could feel that, like, energetically, I could feel that push. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's really weird. Like, I don't know this woman. But I was like, hey, like, and she had angels around her. Like, so I primarily work with gods and goddesses, but I do believe, you know, not to get too off topic, but I do believe in angels too. I don't think there's the same separation in the higher realms that there is down here. I think most of the higher realms work together for the greater good. But anyway, you know, she had angels around her, and I could feel that energy. It's like they have a certain vibration. And I told her about that, and I brought up, you know, the sexual assault. And we talked about it, and I started channeling for her and like going into detail about it. And she started crying, but she was really grateful for it, because her spirit guides had a message for her. Her son was worried about her dating new men because of what she had gone through. And I channeled that for her, and I told her about that. And I was like, hey, you need to have a conversation with your son, because he's, you know, he's having anxiety, and I can pick up on that anxiety, and I can feel that energy. He's really upset. He's really worried about you, but he'll be okay, but he's not wanting to tell you this. You're going to have to talk to him yourself. So, you know, it's things like that where it's like, it's a little bit of a challenge, because it's like, it's awkward. Like, I'm like, that's inappropriate. But at the same time, it's like, sometimes people's spirit guides will come through me, and they're like, you need to tell this person this. Like, yeah, it might be awkward. It might be uncomfortable, but this is going to, you know, help them make the changes they need to make. This is going to, like, it's necessary. You need to do this. And she was grateful. She wasn't upset that I brought it up. I tried to have that tact, you know, to bring it up, you know, in a smooth way. I didn't want to trigger her. I didn't want to upset her. So, you know, even though she started crying, she did tell me that, you know, she really appreciated it. So things like that, you know, just being challenged to be honest. I've had other experiences like that. Like, I've had another experience, like with another Uber driver, where I ended up, you know, channeling for them. I had an experience actually with this man. I channeled. I was hearing this song, because sometimes I channel through songs. Sometimes my spirit guides will come through, like, you know, songs or like movie clips, you know, TV series clips. Like, I feel like we can interpret the world around us kind of the same way that we interpret a dream. Mm-hmm. There's like these synchronicities all around us. So, you know, they came through really strongly through this song. I think it was, what was the song? When I'm Gone, You'll Need Love. I forget the song. I think it's called Wherever You Will Go by the Calling, I think it is. But anyway, I could feel that there was like some kind of spirit or energy coming through. So I got on my YouTube channel, and I channeled very specific details. I was like, you guys used to go to concerts together. This was like your soulmate. I feel like she passed on. I feel like you used to have problems like with your diet, like you used to have poor eating habits, and I can kind of feel her energy coming through, and she wants to make sure you're okay, make sure you're taking care of yourself. And, you know, I just kind of assumed it was for someone on my YouTube channel. I didn't think anything of it. And about a week later, I met someone in person, and I realized that it was for him. It was his fiance that had passed on. Aww. And yeah, and all the details that I got on the on the YouTube video that I had posted like a week prior, they all like resonated with him. they're like, they used to go to concerts together. He wasn't eating well. He had like poor diet problems that she used to help him with when she was alive. And I know he doesn't mind me talking about it because it's like, it's not, you know, he's not going to know anyone that you're talking to. And I don't talk to him anymore. I just kind of came into his life briefly to give him those messages from her. But yeah, it's like I channeled like very specific details. I think that's the most memorable experience I've had recently too. That was about a year ago. I mean, I've had more memorable experiences than that too, but like that's one of the ones that like sticks out.
Right.
Because I think it was like very healing for him because he actually started crying and he was like, oh, holy shit, like you're actually like a psychic. He's like, I've had other people like try to channel her or whatever, or like give me readings, but like you actually like are able to like you know a bunch of things about her that you shouldn't know. Like you know all these details. And he started like, he just broke down crying. And it was like this full grown man like in his like 40s, maybe 50s that was like he just broke down crying, and like I gave him a hug and like was talking to him and like channeling her for him and giving him messages from her. But I think it really helped him. I think it was like he needed to talk to her. He needed that closure from her. You know what I mean? It's like he needed to I think he needed to connect with her. He needed to know that she was okay. So it's things like that where it's like, I mean, it's a little bit of a challenge sometimes because it's like so I don't mind like the like I don't really get scared off by like emotions. Like I'm a very emotional person. Like I really like other people that are emotional. But I think the challenge is just being honest, because it's like you have to like make sure you're not just like triggering someone and hurting someone, and you have to make sure that they're open to what you have to say. And sometimes it's hard to read people and see if they're open to the messages that you're channeling. But I mean, I want that. I want more experiences like that, to be honest. I want to be able to channel clearly like that and bring those messages down to people that need them.
Right.
So that was a good experience for me too, because I was like, kind of like confirmation of my path. I'm like, okay, like this is like, it's not, it's like not being one of those like love and light and positive vibes only healers that just kind of helps people heal on a surface level and just kind of puts a Band-Aid on it. I'm like, I actually like made him like break down crying, but like it was a good thing. It's like that's what real healing is. Real healing is messy. It's not, real healing isn't necessarily positive. It's very raw. It's very emotional. It's very messy. And I strive to be one of those healers that really brings about those kind of major life changes for people.
Right. And yeah, absolutely. Like I feel like psychics, tarot readers, witches, whatever the title, healers, we get a bad rap. And we get it mainly from, and I don't mean to call out, certain people, but we do get it a lot from Christians. And like, I don't mean that in a mean way. I was raised Christian. But anyway.
You're Christ-like. Like, to be Christian means to be Christ-like, and like, there's a difference between people that just call themselves Christian and people that genuinely strive to be Christ-like.
Right. But where I was going with that is like a lot of us, we get demonized, and I think it's because a lot of the false prophets realize that we, the healers, we are the modern prophets. And they don't want to admit that because they want to maintain the status quo.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm a very big advocate for the modern prophets. Because a lot of the time, if you get to talking to somebody about social issues, economic issues, really anything big picture, you're gonna find out that somewhere along the way they have done their inner healing work, or they strive to help others do the same.
Yeah, that makes sense, definitely. And I think like with you, because like you're very drawn to politics, and it's like that's your calling, you know what I mean? And I feel like the financial issues you've gone through, they give you that empathy to understand what it's like to like have to go without. Understand? I mean, you kind of understand what it's like to financially struggle, and that drives you to try to help other people that are in that same boat that are financially struggling.
Yes. And I'll be the first to say I do know that I am privileged because, yes, I've had some struggles, but I'm blessed, so blessed to have a good support system, family that wants to, not see me on the street, and who supports me in my pride of not wanting to move back in with my parents, even though I adore my parents. They know that, like, having the life that I currently have, that's like a big thing for me, and like it would devastate me if I lost it. So like I will be the first to say I am privileged, and I know that there's a lot of people that are struggling a lot worse than me. But I agree. I have had just a little bit of a taste of it, enough to know that I don't want it to get any worse, and that I don't want it to be worse for anyone else. I want to help lift other people up, like you were saying.
Yeah, and I hope that didn't come off the wrong way. I just mean that, like, you have that empathy, like, as a healer.
Yeah.
If you have a specific ability to be able to help heal people that have gone through specific things, because it's like you've experienced certain things, so it's like you understand that, you have that deeper understanding. And I feel like a lot of healers these days, it's like they, like the positive vibes only types, it's like they're not
something cut out.
Say what?
That cut out. You got to positive vibes only types, and then it just cut out. I can hear you now, though.
Oh, sorry. Like a lot of like the positive vibes only types, it's like I feel like they can't really bring about, like they can't really be a major catalyst for change, because it's like I was saying, it's like they try to convince people to put a Band-Aid on, much deeper wounds that need to be looked at and addressed and healed. But it's like I feel like real healers have been through a lot of darkness. Like they've been through, and not saying you can't be a real healer and, not have traumatic life experiences, but I just feel like the deeper healers have gone through that darkness. They've gone through that trauma. They have that understanding of it, so they can help other people with it at the same time.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, the light workers, they can help with healing, and that's wonderful, but everybody needs a different kind of healing. So like the ones that have gone through those dark nights of the soul, they have experiences that they themselves can help with a little better than someone who hasn't.
Yeah, definitely. It's like it's that deeper level of healing.
Absolutely.
And I think people have to understand that healing isn't linear. It's a very messy process.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, for me personally, my dark night of the soul was right after me and my ex-fiance broke up. I was struggling with self-image, with, honestly, with my will to live, to be completely honest. Like, I know that can be triggering for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've been there. I feel that.
Mm-hmm. But, like, at that point in my life, I didn't really care at all what happened to me. I was doing stupid shit. I was drinking just, like, every single day. There was this one time that I pretty much went crazy and decided I'm gonna go camping in the woods by myself just to prove that I can. And that was a dumb move. Thank goodness my mom pulled me out of that one.
Well, I did that too, actually. I went camping by myself, but I wasn't even in a low state, so I'm like, shit, maybe I'm crazy with you.
Oh, well, no, for me, it was more of a I want to prove my independence thing.
Fair.
But, like, yeah, for me, it was just, I was doing things impulsively with no planning. I went and bought a tent that day, sleeping bag that day, didn't tell anybody, and was just going to go camp in the woods by myself. Like, that was a stupid thing for me to do. Because no one knew.
When you went through that kind of dark night of the soul, though, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When you went through that, like, dark night of the soul, though, did you feel like you went through a spiritual awakening afterwards? Because I feel like sometimes, like, when you go through, like, rock bottom like that, it's like, that's where the real healing is. When you hit rock bottom and you're just, like, completely brutally honest with yourself about what you're hurt by, what you're, what's holding you back. It's like you let those emotions just flow, and it's like,
yeah. So what really brought me out of it was, like I said, I got obsessed with tarot. I wanted to know every detail of what was going to happen, so I was like pulling daily. I was fast track learning that shit. But I got very into that, and then after a while I realized all that I needed was a sense of control. And like I will also credit Sage for helping me come out of that, because through all my crazy, he was there, and that's what I needed, was a constant. So I needed a constant and a sense of control. I'm sorry, what?
No, I said, yeah, you need someone who gets you, who sees the best in you even when you're at your worst, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And recently he's been telling me about like the things that his dad had said when he was alive during that time, of, while I was just at my absolute worst. And I've gotten a new perspective of just like how bad it was. So like when you were saying the healing isn't linear, that's what brought that up for me, was like I'm still healing from that. And
yeah.
I mean, like, I have a great life now. I'm not going to deny that. I have a fantastic boyfriend. I have a decent job. Yeah, the money's not as great as I would like it to be, and we're getting ready to move because the rent's going up. But like, I have a partner who supports me through everything, and I adore him. So like, I now have an appreciation for that time in my life, because like, if all that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you needed to go through that to get to that, like, that, spiritual awakening, like, really, like, you went through a dark night of the soul, pretty much.
Mm-hmm, I did. But I'll stop, bringing all that can of worms back up. Let's look at some of our... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it's hard to ever forget that kind of pain, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you go through something like that, it's hard to forget. But it helps you help other people. Mm-hmm. Like, you can relate to people now that are going through those low points.
Absolutely. Okay, I've got some submitted questions here for us. We'll get back into the happy, fun stuff. So, this one's from Tulpa Helena on TikTok. She wants to know, what do you say to the sitter or client when their cards are just a big ball of yikes?
That's a good question. Because I can be very honest, and sometimes I have to tone it down, because it's like, honesty is like one of my highest ideals, and it's like sometimes it really helps people, and sometimes it's like it makes people uncomfortable, but it eventually helps them, or it just makes them uncomfortable. But I'm just like, I can't. I can sugarcoat things to a degree, but I don't like to. I don't like small talk. I'd rather just be forward with people. And like I was saying earlier, it's like my spirit guides are challenging me to be even more honest and more assertive and more straightforward. Even on my YouTube channel, they're like, you should, like, share your own experiences. Like they want me to really just be more raw, because like I was saying, it's like that's true healing when you dive into that passion, that emotion, whether it's dark or light, with just feeling, just raw feeling. I think where true healing is. Anyway, sorry. I try to God, how do I explain this? I try to be honest, but I try to make sure I don't hurt my clients at the same time.
Right.
Because it's like I had one client once, and I know I'm only talking about people that I know wouldn't mind me sharing this, because it's like it's been years and they don't know anyone that I know, so I know they're not going to care. But it's like I had a client years ago, and she wanted me to do a relationship reading for her, and I was reading her and her boyfriend, and she hadn't told me yet that he was in prison and that he was abusive. Oh. And I just looked at his picture, and I was like, oh no, this, like, he's not for you. Like, you don't want this. Like, this man is all bad. Like, I don't get a good vibe. Like, you need to get away from him. And then she was like, then she confessed, because it's like, sometimes clients will try to hide things from psychics, and it's like, you can't hide things. Like, we're gonna, if you're asking us to read for you, we're gonna channel it, you know? I've had clients like that where it's like they've cheated on their partners and they try to hide it from me, and I'm like, no, I can feel what you did. Like, I know, you know, like, but anyway, it's like she was trying to hide that, and I was like, no, like, he's abusive. Like, you gotta listen to me. And we kind of, the reading got a little awkward because she was trying to, like, defend him. She was like, because I was telling her, I was like, you need to get away from this man. This man isn't good for you. And she was like, well, you know, he's in prison, and he only, you know, he was only abusive this one time, or this, you know, a couple times. And it was kind of an awkward reading. So, you know, I try to help them. I want to be honest with them. I don't want them to sugarcoat it. I don't want to sugarcoat things. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's in an abusive relationship, or if they're in a bad situation, I want to make sure they understand the message. I don't want to give anybody false hope. Like, I want to make sure they understand what the cards are trying to say, but I still want to give them hope for the future. So in a reading like that, I might, you know, if I channel that someone was toxic for them and it's not going anywhere, or if I channel that, like, a job was toxic for them, or they're not going to get the promotion they wanted, or something like that, I usually try to follow it up by seeing what's coming in their future. So, like, let's say they're not getting the promotion that they wanted. I'll pull some more cards. Like, I'll go into a little bit of extra detail to see if maybe there's another job that's right for them, or another relationship that's right for them, so that there is something to look forward to in the future. And kind of also just helping them navigate that energy, like, understand the karmic lesson, understand why they're maybe repeating a pattern of abusive relationships, or, you know, bad situations, or whatever it is. Like, helping them really, you know, kind of dig deeper and look at why they're repeating this pattern, and helping them get out of that, and at the same time giving them something to look forward to in the future if they choose to make those big life changes and, you know, change their situation and step out of their comfort zone.
Right. Yeah, I am the same way. I like to give an insight into the future too whenever I get a big ball of yikes. And I will go until I find something positive. I don't care how far into the future I have to go, I will find something positive.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, you'll learn a good lesson from it.
I have empathy for your clients, because I know, like, before I went through that psychic awakening, like, years and years ago, before I really realized I was a psychic, because I think that a lot of people do channel, but they don't realize they're channeling. And I think I had that my entire life, but then it just, you know, it became more clear to me that I was channeling a few years, 5-6 years ago. But before that, when I wasn't able to do my own readings, when I used to go to other psychics to get readings, it's like, I feel like a lot of them lacked empathy. I would be like, hey, like, I really love this guy. Is it going to go somewhere? And they would just be like, nope, like, he's a dick, or he's, you know, like, he's abusive, or he's cheating on you, or whatever. Like, it's not going anywhere. But there was no support. Like, they just made me feel more alone. I didn't feel like they gave me guidance. I didn't feel like they gave me any way out of that. They didn't give me any hope for the future. So, you know, as a psychic, I like to make sure that I'm not just answering my clients' questions, but I'm actually giving them support. The support in, you know, the energy that they're needing to get out of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, like, yeah, sometimes, you know, the client does need, like, a kick in the pants. And, like, that brutal honesty just to get it through their head. But, like, that's not the kind of thing that you should start with. You should start by, you know, attempting to say it tactfully. Like, yeah, you might get, like, a big ball of yikes, as Tulpa Helena has worded this. And there's a lot of ways that you can choose to kind of diffuse the tension on it. You can maybe make a joke and be like, oh, this is a big ball of yikes, and just go in with that and, like, try to keep the humor going. Or you can just deliver the news bluntly and then offer comfort. Or you can try to sugarcoat it all the way through. Like, everyone's a little bit different. But I think that... personally, I believe that for every bad time, there's an equally good time coming, and vice versa, because life is all about balance. So, like, if someone's going through the worst shit of their lives, then I always remind them that, like, you know, the best time of your life is coming up.
Right. And I think it's really important to balance that really brutal, you know, straightforward honesty with empathy. Like, if I'm going to tell a client, like, hey, your boyfriend or your girlfriend is garbage and they're cheating on you, you should get away from them, I'm also going to try to, like, lift them up and be like, hey, like, I can feel, like, your personality traits. Like, you can do a lot better than this person, actually. Like, you have, you know, like, I might go into their spiritual path or, like, certain gifts that they have. Like, you want to, like, you know, because you want to, like, remind yourself of how your clients are going to feel after your reading. That's really important.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to build a rapport, and, like, find, you know, someone who will come back to you later in the future when they need another reading later on. I think a lot of psychics, especially the bigger ones, will forget that, like, repeat business is super important. If they're just, like, helping, like, 500 people a day, they're probably not going to care so much. But, like, me, I have these people that come to me at the flea market once every couple of weeks. I actually had this family come through that I channel for fairly regularly, you know, once every couple of months, and they gave me an update on the last reading that I did for them. It was a career reading, and I'm not going to go into the details because this is still pretty fresh, but like, that was a big boost for me to know that, like, I'm doing well. But, like, we were able to, you know, talk about it and like, update, and we're just like, you know, you build friendships over these, you know, these repeat clients.
Yeah, you start caring about what's going on with them, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And you are a very accurate reader. You are, you know, you're on point.
So are you.
Ow.
Yeah, you're fantastic. Like, for me personally, when we do a private reading, it's a little overwhelming, but that's just because of how my brain works.
I know. But I'm channeling too much shit for you. You're like, I don't want to know all this. I'm like, I didn't ask all these additional, you know, questions, but I start, like, digging in. I'm like, but wait, I need to, like, help you with this and this and this.
Right, but I love watching your YouTube videos because I'm like, this is concise, and I can follow this. So, like, you're accurate and you're fantastic, but, like, you know, it's everyone's different. So, like, I'm sure you don't read. Well, maybe you do. I was gonna say, I'm sure you don't read for everyone the exact same way. But maybe you do. I don't, because, like, I adapt to my client. But
that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I try to, like I said, I try to be honest in all my readings. Like, I make sure that I tell them the truth. Like, I tell them whatever I channel, even if it's not something they want to hear. But I try to, like, balance it out. Like, I'm not just going to leave them hanging. I'm not just going to be like, yeah, your boyfriend is, like, leaving you. Sorry, end of the reading. I'm going to, like, make sure, like, hey, there's, like, what else is coming? Like, is there another soulmate that's coming in later on? Like, what do you need to do to meet that person? Like, you know, just, again, finding that balance between, like, being really honest and assertive, but also being empathetic and understanding how your clients are feeling and how they're going to take the information.
Yeah. All right. So I've got two more submissions here. This first one, these both actually come from Esperanza from Facebook. This first one is, how can tarot help someone live in balance with their highest good?
So, this is an interesting one. I feel like, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, where I was saying a lot of people are afraid to step out of their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they don't, how do I explain this? It's like it's like they're afraid of the unknown, and they're afraid of letting go of control. And it honestly doesn't fully make sense to me, because when you really dive in It's like what is that famous quote? Like, the only way out is through, is what comes to mind. The only way out is through. So a lot of people like kind of start diving in and then they go back to their comfort zone. But it's like, if you push further, you dig deeper, you go further, you're gonna get to the other side of things, and you're gonna have that energy that you're looking for. It's like, if you're looking for control, tarot is like the ultimate way of doing that. Like, I think back like a decade ago when like I wasn't able to channel, people's intentions or their energy. Like, I didn't know what kind of people I was dealing with. I couldn't see the red flags in people. I couldn't find out like if a situation, if a job, whatever was right for me. Like, I can't understand, like, I can't fathom going back to like just being in the dark like that. It's like, if you want control, tarot is honestly the ultimate way to have that control. It's like, when you really dig deeper and learn to connect with your spirit guides, it's like, you don't have to be in the dark. You can have the answers. You can have this like self-awareness and this awareness of your environment. You really don't have to be left in the dark. So I think that's how tarot can help someone live in balance with their highest good. It's like, tarot is a tool for just about anything you could ask for. It's a tool to understanding yourself better, understanding people better, understanding situations you're in better. It's a way to really just dig deeper.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes back to, how I started. Mine was, I wanted a sense of control too. So, like you were saying, like, that's a fantastic way to get that.
Yeah. And it's strange because a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people are like, oh no, like, I don't want to open my third eye. I don't want to go through like a spiritual awakening. Like, they just want to stay where they're at. They just want to stay in stagnant energy. And it's like, you don't have, if you're in that stagnant energy, if your third eye is closed off, like, you don't have that control because you don't know what's going on around you. If you genuinely want control, like, tarot is the way to do that. Tarot is the way to have that understanding.
Yes. I actually, when I'm offering readings at the flea market or like at events, I'll get some people who will come up and they'll like ask about it, but they don't want a reading. They're like adamant that they absolutely don't want a reading. They don't want to try it because they don't want to know. They're like, no, if something's going to go wrong in my life, I don't want to know about it. And I'll be like, well, what about the good things in your life? And they'll be like, I don't really want to know about that either. And I'm like, that is perfectly fine. That is your prerogative. Because I personally do find some beauty in the not knowing, because like, and I think it comes from that obsession that I had a long time ago of wanting to know every detail. Is like, that's part of my healing, is that now I'm like, wow, a pleasant surprise. Or even in like an unpleasant surprise, I'm like, now I get a pleasant surprise later. So, yeah.
No, I feel it. I think a lot of things, like one of the main things that people like don't get to is like that most things you can change. I mean, I think that there are things that people are destined for. Like, there are soul contracts that people make with other people or with, jobs or situations or whatever. And like, I think people would be led back to those soul contracts. But, tarot is not like set in stone. It's not like you're channeling something and it has to be that way. It's like that's what a lot of people don't understand with psychics. And like, why it's so hard to predict timelines, because with like a timeline, like, I'll have like clients ask me like, oh, is like my ex coming back within a month or within 2 months? And like, I can look at the current energy and say, yes, like, if they stay in this current energy, if you guys continue the same interactions you're having, yes, I can see them coming back in a month. But people have free will, so that energy can change. And like, I wish more people understood that about tarot, is that like, as psychics, we're going off of the current energy. Like, when I do a reading for someone, I'm tapping into their energy. I'm looking at a picture of them or of their person, and I'm looking in their eyes. I'm reading their energy, like with that clairsentience and claircognizance of like, I'm feeling their energy. I'm tuning into their current thoughts, their emotions, the connection, the relationship, all of it. But it's like, again, they both have free will, so they can change that, or if I channel like someone's about to get fired from their job, it's like it's not set in stone. It's like that person can change it. I'm feeling the current energy, what's going on. but it's most things are not set in stone like that.
Right. And like, I try to make sure that my clients know that, like, at the beginning and at the end of the reading. Like, I'm like, hey, you know, if you don't like what I have to say, you can take this information and you can apply it and make the changes in your life so that you can avoid this situation.
Yeah.
It's great for making a game plan.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't want to be in the dark. You want to know people's intentions, their feelings. You want to know what's going on around you so that you can decide accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So this next one I have is also from Esperanza. And this one is, have you picked up on any soul lessons for the collective recently?
Yes. So I haven't been feeling it as much lately, but the past, like, I'd say a few months or so, there have been a lot of timeline shifts, like major timeline jumps, going from like lower timelines to higher timelines, just major timeline jumps. So one of the soul lessons I'd say that has been coming up recently for the collective is that the karmic timelines, like the lower timelines, that energy is going to get heavier. So if you're repeating a pattern with abusive or toxic relationships, those abusive toxic relationships are honestly going to get more toxic, more abusive. It's going to get heavier until you decide, hey, enough is enough, and I'm transcending to a higher timeline. The higher timelines are also very intense right now, where there's like this energy of spiritual awakening, dreams, downloads, visions, all of that. It's like the energies are very, very intense right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I feel like one of the soul lessons is just people, how do I explain this? But it's like the energies on the karmic timelines are just getting heavier so that people can kind of become aware of karmic patterns, of the karmic energies around them, karmic people around them.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like people have a chance to shift. And something I've kind of noticed too is that, you know, there can be people, so this is hard to explain, but something I've realized lately too is that you can have someone who is a higher level soulmate on a like the higher timeline for you, and on a lower timeline, they're karmic.
Yeah, you and I have actually experienced that in some of our readings recently.
Yeah, it's like the same exact person can be a karmic on a lower timeline, but a higher level soulmate on a higher timeline. But it really depends on what you do, on what that person does, if they want to evolve, if they want to go through a spiritual awakening, or if they want to stay on a karmic timeline and repeat those patterns. So I just think that karmic cycles are being brought to people's attention more. Their patterns, their subconscious patterns, past life patterns, all of those things are really just being brought up to the point where people are not going to be able to suppress them. People are not being able to, like, people cannot suppress their emotions anymore. They can't suppress, it's like almost like people are becoming, it's almost like they're being forced to become self-aware. Like, it's going to be in their face. Their patterns are going to be in their face, whether karmic, soul contracts, past life, current life, childhood patterns, whatever it is. It's going to be brought to people's attention, and they're going to have to make that decision. Do they want to stay in that energy? Do they want to stay stagnant? Do they want to keep repeating the same cycles? Or do they want to evolve to a higher timeline?
Yeah.
And this kind of goes into a second soul lesson that I've been channeling recently, which is that people do have bad karma if they ask their spirit guides for something that they are not ready to commit to and make sacrifices for. Like, if you're asking your spirit guides for something, let me use like I think a lot of people don't like understand communicating with their spirit guides. Like, they don't understand it. It's like, you're always communicating with your spirit guides. Your spirit guides are always around you, but some people don't recognize that their spirit guides are around them. They don't know where that information is coming from. So right. I'll try to explain it in a way that makes more sense, but it would kind of be like, you know, asking your friend for a favor. Like, if you're trying to manifest something, if you're trying to manifest, you know, your soulmate or true love, or you're trying to manifest a new job or a promotion, or some kind of opportunity, like from your spirit guides, like, or whatever energies you work with, whether it's gods and goddesses or angels or other spirits or just the universe in general, just prayer, manifestation, you have to make sure that you're either making the changes that you need to make to have that, or that you're willing to make those changes when that thing comes in. Mm-hmm. So it would kind of be like, asking, like a physical world example would be kind of like asking your friend to borrow something, or asking your friend for a big favor, and you're just bugging them, and you're asking and asking and asking, and they finally do it, and you don't appreciate it, or you sabotage it. Well, your friend is going to feel disrespected, and they're going to take that opportunity away from you, and you're probably not going to get it back anytime soon.
Right.
And I feel like people don't recognize it's the same with their spirit guides. You have a relationship with your spirit guides, whether you're conscious of it or not. And if you're asking your spirit guides for love, for money, for success, for fame, for whatever, and you're praying, you're visualizing, you're meditating, you're manifesting it, you better be ready to ride that wave when that manifestation comes in. So if you're asking for true love and, your soulmate is right in front of your face, and you sabotage it and you go back to your pattern of dating, karmic people, or, crazy people, or toxic people, you're probably not going to get another opportunity for true love anytime soon, because you had that blessing right in front of your face, and you didn't take it, you didn't accept it, you sabotaged it. So it's like your spirit guides gave you a gift, and you kind of spit in their face and said, no, thank you. Same with money, same with abundance, same with pretty much anything that you're asking for. It's like if you're trying to manifest that and your spirit guides, you finally manifest it, your spirit guides bring it to you, you better be ready to step out of your comfort zone and evolve and make those changes to have that opportunity, to be in alignment with that opportunity, to see what's in front of your face, to embrace it, to really understand the gift that the universe is giving you, to understand, recognize your manifestations, coming into fruition, to really appreciate it. Because like I said, if you don't, it's like, again, it's like your spirit guides are almost insulted, where it's like you might not get that opportunity again anytime soon. So that's another karmic lesson, is like, be mindful of what you're manifesting. Make sure you're willing to make changes. Make sure you're willing to step out of your comfort zone and embrace what it is that you're asking for. Because when you manifest things too, it doesn't just affect you; it also affects other people. Mm-hmm. You end up writing soul contracts with other people. Soul contracts aren't just written before this lifetime. Like, you can write soul contracts in the higher realms at any time with other souls. So you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware of your manifestations.
Oh, yeah. If you don't mind me interjecting with an example from a few years ago between you and me, a lot of the times I've noticed that sometimes guides will maliciously comply as well in order to teach a lesson. So the example that I have is, and this can be cut if we need to, but the example that I have is a while back when we were channeling one of your potential soulmates, and we kept getting that he just wasn't ready. He wasn't there yet. He had all these lessons that he had to go through, and you're like, nope, I want him now. And then they were like, okay, here he is. And then he was just very disappointing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like that's another example of, like, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. That's, like, another thing of, like, you have to be ready for what you're manifesting, and ready for the consequences if it's, like, too soon and not in compliance with the divine timeline.
Yeah, that does make sense. That does make sense. I think, for me too, sometimes I have like how to explain it? It's like, for me, sometimes I channel like higher soulmates or like potential life partners, and like I channel who they could be or who they really are on a soul level. It's like their spirit comes through. Like, I'll have dreams about them or visions, or like I'll telepathically channel them. But it's like their spirit is coming through and showing me who they really are deep down, and like who they could be if they choose to get off the karmic timeline and go through, their spiritual awakening and, let go of pride, let go of their ego, and really be spiritually open and make the changes they need to make. So it's like sometimes I feel like I do channel people it's like I channel their soul. I channel who they really are. And sometimes who they are on a conscious level is a little bit like contradictory. Like I see their soul coming through, but their conscious mind and their ego and their fear and their pride kind of, gets in the way a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I feel like I had a thought, but it went away.
What's that Michael Scott quote? That
I don't.
Sometimes I start a sentence and I don't know where it's going, but I just hope I can along the way.
Yes,
That's me
that happens.
I'm like, oh my god. I'm a really good writer. Like I'm good at writing songs and poetry, but like I'm not good at talking to people.
Yes. So, like, I have a split-second window sometimes when I experience just the essence of a thought to fully develop it, and if I don't, it goes away. And I'm like, oh, well, that is the LaCroix of thoughts.
I feel it.
All right. Well, since that disappeared, I'll just move on to the next question. What advice would you give folks who are interested in the tarot but are hesitant or afraid to try it? I actually think this one was a submission and I forgot to give credit. If I remember right, I think Brittany from Facebook asked this one.
Oh, hello, Brittany. Is that your friend, Brittany, or?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Brittany.
Yeah.
So hesitant, afraid to try it. I would say, I don't know how to explain this, but it's almost like tarot is like an extension of yourself. It's your own, how do I explain this? It's like an art form. Like witchcraft is an art form. Like when I used to do witchcraft and I was logical about it and I tried to put logic and I tried to like do spells that were written by somebody else, like it didn't really do much. But if I like do a candle, like if I do like a protection or a healing candle on myself, and I just let myself kind of go into a bit of a trance and I just choose the herbs and the oils that feel right to me and I put all my emotion and energy into it, that's when I manifest like the healing or the protection or the money that I'm trying to manifest. I feel like, tarot is very similar where it's like witchcraft where it's an art form. It's very creative. It's not something to be afraid of. It's like you start tuning into the energy. It's just a tool to connect with your spirit guides, with your soulmates, with other beings. It's not something to be afraid of. I would say with tarot though, you have to really you have to ground yourself. You have to really make sure you're good in a good state when you read tarot. So I usually light sage or Palo Santo before I pull tarot cards. I'm mindful about the energies that I allow in. So typically, not always, but sometimes I have a specific intention when I pull tarot cards. Like I might be like, hey, I want to communicate with this goddess or this god specifically. Like I want to talk to them. I want to know what they want to say to me specifically. Or I want to know what, this person from my soul group, what they want to say to me specifically. And I have to kind of block out other energies or other spirits that might confuse it, that might confuse the energy. I have to be very intentional about what I'm calling in. I have to be mindful about the energies that are around me.
Absolutely.
So I would say, because there are darker spirits, there are demonic spirits out there, there are lower vibrational spirits out there that will come through and they will confuse you. So you really have to, Anna's better at this than I am, but I'm too trusting. Anna's better at vetting spirit guides. Like she's helped me in the past a little bit because it's like sometimes I'm like, oh, there's like another deity that wants to come through, and Anna's like, no, that's a demon. That's like something dark. Like you need to be mindful of that.
Yes, please vet your spirit guides. You just have to ask about their lore.
She's more logical about it than I am. Like, you have to be mindful of what you're bringing in, of what you're channeling. You have to be very intentional. Like, I'm only allowing this deity and this one specific deity or this one specific person's energy. I want to talk to them directly through the tarot card. I don't want to let anybody in but this one person. And I've had readings like that, honestly, with not to get too off topic, but I've had readings like that with clients where they will ask me about a soulmate of theirs, or they'll ask me about someone. They'll be like, hey, like, is this person coming back? And one of their exes will come through, because I'll feel the ex's energy around, and I'll feel them come through the cards, and I'm like, no, this isn't. I can tell that this is not the person they sent me a picture of. I can tell, like, this is not the person they're asking about, and I have to shut that person out.
Right.
I'm like, this isn't what they're wanting to pick up on. This is an ex that's trying to come through the energy, and they're trying to send messages through the cards, but I'm not going to allow it because that's not what they're wanting to know about. So, to give advice, it's like, be grounded, be mindful. A lot of people think that spirits cannot lie, and that's simply not true. Spirits, gods, goddesses, higher vibrational spirits even, they have their own personalities, they have their own agendas. They can lie. They can lie if they want to. It's they can lie if they want to. You need to be aware of that. So, especially if you're working with different deities, you need to be aware of who you're working with. You need to be aware of the connection you have with them. You need to be careful calling them in. So yeah, just ground yourself. Use sage, Palo Santo before doing a reading. I like to cleanse the cards too before and after readings, because when if I do a reading for a client, all that energy is on the cards after I do the reading. So I need to cleanse that energy off before I do another reading. Otherwise, it kind of confuses the energy a little bit. I would also say don't read in an overly emotional state. You really want to make sure that you're not either in a negative light, being overly pessimistic, or being overly positive and wishful thinking. You want to make sure you're in a neutral state where you can really communicate with your spirit guides and allow them to bring you the truth. Like, I always try to put that intention in that I want the truth. I don't care if it hurts me. I want the truth. I want to know what's going on. I want clarity.
Mm-hmm.
I try to remain in that very neutral, grounded, open-minded state where my spirit guides can communicate with me, so I'm not putting too much of my own emotion and energy into the cards. So, I would say as long as you're using the correct protective measures, you're going to be fine. As long as you're grounding yourself, you're going to be fine. I would also say it's a trial and error process, because when you first start pulling cards, like if you're new to tarot, it's, you're going to get it wrong at first. You're going to get it wrong sometimes. You're going to have a hard time reading the cards at first. It's like anything else. It's like learning guitar, or learning a musical instrument, learning anything. You're going to have to really practice before you understand the cards properly, and before you are able to fully use it as a tool to communicate with your spirit guides. You have to be willing to be wrong sometimes. You have to be willing to experiment until it's part of developing your intuition. You have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to experiment until you start understanding the language that your spirit guides are speaking to you in. But yeah, just grounding, cleansing, and protecting yourself, protecting your energy is the main thing I can say. Also, like we were talking about earlier, really choose a tarot deck or an oracle deck that speaks to you. Choose one that matches your aesthetic. Choose one that, they have their own personalities, their own energies. So choose the one that really connects with who you are as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. There were several points where I was like, oh, I have something to add to that. And then I've already forgotten it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Be super quiet, or I just ramble.
It's fine. No worries. I was like, man, I have something to contribute. No, I don't. Well, I'll just kind of throw
art, like the art form, because you were talking about that earlier. The different
Oh, there were so many points. There were just like 500.
I just thought. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just didn't want to talk over you, so I was like, I'll wait. I'll hold on to this. And I was like, oh, I'll hold on to this. Oh, I'll hold on to this.
Oh.
That's okay. Yeah. That's what I get for not writing it down. Let's see. we were talking earlier about when things would come through from other timelines. And advice that I have on that is something that helped a lot today when our cards were just really, really chatty, was that at the beginning, I made it very clear and intentional that I wanted to only speak to speak about the version of the subject of our reading that exists here on this timeline. So I was like, I want to speak to their current earthly energy. And that helped so much, because you know how we'll sometimes get like these, like, where your guides will come through and be like, oh, well, this is what could happen. And then it doesn't. And we're like, but for why?
Right.
So that was that thing that I had forgotten earlier.
I
know. Okay. So
sorry, go ahead.
I've got 3 questions left, and they're all about you. What other projects are you currently working on?
So I do make Oracle and Tarot cards. It's very time consuming. It's not, like, I wouldn't say it's very difficult, but it is very time consuming. So I am focusing a lot of energy on that. As far as, like, you know, things connected to tarot spirituality, that's like the main thing. I mean, I interpret dreams. I would say the tarot is like the main, like, making my tarot decks is probably the main thing that I'm focusing on regarding what we've been talking about.
Oh, that's really cool. I'm very excited. Eventually, when I have money, I'm going to buy some of your cards. And I'm also going to send you some of my cards. One day I'll have money. I think I've been saying that since your last birthday. So, whenever those are available to actually sell, let me know and I will link it on this eventually. As a professional tarot reader, what sort of services do you provide to your clients? I guess that should say professional psychic, because you do other things besides tarot.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I primarily channel, so, like, when I do a reading for a client, I always ask them for pictures. I don't do readings without pictures because, you know, that's primarily how I channel. Like I was talking about, I focus in on the eyes, I focus on their energy, on whatever thoughts I pick up, just whatever I feel off their picture. So, I mean, primarily channeling. I interpret dreams as well. I have done witchcraft in the past for clients, but I don't like to do that because I just feel like people should do their own witchcraft, and I would rather help people learn to do witchcraft. I would rather explain to people how to do witchcraft, because when it's your own emotion, your own passion, it's so much more powerful than having someone else do the witchcraft for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see myself offering witchcraft services anytime soon, but I can see myself potentially teaching witchcraft classes in the future. Especially like dream interpretation classes as well. I can see myself teaching dream interpretation, how to read tarot cards, how to connect with the tarot cards, how to develop yourself spiritually, intuitively. But, like, the main service is definitely just, you know, tarot readings, basic, you know.
That's fair. And then finally, how do your clients find you?
Primarily through YouTube. I usually have clients email me through my YouTube channel. They'll tell me that they were led to my channel, that they found my readings, the title resonated with them. Occasionally I do meet people in public, and I might channel something for them and give them my information, but most of the time it's through YouTube.
Okay. And is it okay for me to link your contact info, the stuff that you do list in your YouTube descriptions, on this podcast episode, so that people can reach out to you if they like your energy?
Yes.
Awesome. Then I will put that in the episode description. And I'll also go ahead and link your channel while we're at it. But for those of you who would rather just look it up yourselves, once again, her YouTube handle is The Dragon Enchantress. And is there anything else that you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I can't think of anything.
Cool beans. Well, it's been a pleasure having you. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you for having me. Me too.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording now. And that concludes this episode of Tasseo-Talk. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to tune in next month. Featured in this episode were myself, Chrissy Ball, and my special guest, Stephanie Lovett. The music you hear is courtesy of freestockmusic.com and features A Midsummer's Night in the Woods by Justin Allen Arnold. If you enjoyed this interview and would like to hear more like it, along with exclusive content and announcements, you can support us on patreon.com/thevioletflamedivinehealing. And visit our other websites on our link tree at linktree/tvfdivinehealing.